Alright, we are back with the game 2 of round 1 within the round robin tournament. So we've got the unironic REI Simp and Tempest Fox playing on this one. Pillars everyone should be familiar with, 5 points, including point A, which is the hardest to capture in the middle. And we're just seeing a very quick deployment here by both teams. So it looks like they've both deployed 3 formations. So if we go through the Tempest Fox first ship looks like a scouting offensive frigate with 2 light cruisers and a heavy cruiser. Light cruisers equipped with 250s and missiles, and same deal on the other one with a cannon heavy cruiser with point defense. Blue's already starting to capture point D at the quickest and easiest at their spawn point. So then 4 frigates, looks like 120s point defense, some more 120s, some electronic warfare, and another carbon copy. So that's Tempest Fox, who's already opening with a Thunderhead salvo from the top frigate, acting as a bit of a spotter. We have a look at a Fox Diff here. Looks like a gun corvette. Second gun corvette. We'll just have a look at the rest of this fleet in a second. We'll see how these Thunderheads go on the opening salvo, being fired around both flanks of point D, trying to capture both of these corvettes within a sort of pincer movement. So it looks like the first group has just turned away. The second group, however, coming in and targeting both of these corvettes, chaff being deployed in order to counter both of those swarms, and the missiles do no effects on Fox Diff. Finishing off, having a look at Blue's fleet. Got beam destroyers, so 2 beam destroyers and a light cruiser. Light cruisers equipped with the 250mm. Corvette up the top, electronic warfare with comms jamming, blanket jamming, a bullseye and a pinard, and a railgun heavy cruiser. Now B's now taken 2 points, Orange has taken 2 points, B off to the right and E down below, with to the 1 point to D. So Fox Diff moving now into capture point A, largely uncontested. These light cruisers should be able to see and engage, and they do start to swivel around. However, the question is, do they have a lock, and will the spread actually end up impacting on the light corvette? And it's fast enough at the moment that it's able to continue to get away and just get towards that point. Couple strikes hitting in there. So the more damage it takes, the further it's going to degrade. And it looks like the 250s now is starting to cause a little bit of damage, even though it starts to break within that capture point. All it needs to do is capture point A, and then it can move out and away. As long as it keeps moving, it should be able to dodge most of this fire, but it has taken a few hits already. A is halfway complete. Kookaburra's in the background. and and looks like Fox Diff will be able to pull off the capture of Point A. So Point A captured to Fox Diff, now 2 versus 2, a small lead to Tempest Fox to begin with. Two different players, both using the Fox moniker within their own player names. A range of 120mm now being fired by the frigates, being cross or bracketed by the 250s from this other group. So with all this fire, they should start to be able to put down this corvette, which looks like it's going to do a spotting run, trying to get in close to see what is shooting it. Looks like the blanket jammer, it looks like the bullseye is out with all the sparks. Looks like Fox Diff has actually just missed the fact that Point C is right there but empty. They have full ability to move into Point C. However, it looks like this corvette is just stationary at the moment. So a few more meters over, they'll be able to start capturing that point, and that will put them in a commanding lead at this point in time, as it's harder to retake A than it is to take any of the other points on this map. Spyglass corvette up the top, you can tell because it's got no other weapons or mounts on it. It is generally a good indicator. That first corvette down on Point A is now destroyed. Life pods are coming out. As the other corvette in the background is continually pounded by 120mm, being fired by the frigates here using double-barreled Mark 62s. Thunderhead swarms now being launched. Repulse from light cruiser being deployed to counter. And I'd expect some chaff any moment. Flak. Couple missile strikes on the leading beam ship, but surprisingly none on the light cruisers at this point in time. Just one. That's good dodging, some damage. That beam ship's going to be a little bit slow. It does have a hurricane, we missed that earlier. Both players holding off with their larger ships, although the railguns now do have line of sight onto the smaller frigates, which will cause significant damage if it can rotate, get a lock, and then turn to bear. Tempest Fox holding back his heavy cruisers at the moment. Point A is open to capture. Looks like this light cruiser just got away, but it is trailing a significant amount of damage. So Tempest Fox now sneaking around with one of his frigates to go capture Point D. It looks more than capable of defending itself with a couple missiles. Point C still not captured. A small Thunderhead launch from the Pedal 9th. It looks like he's going to target this small corvette here, which is providing the communications and radar jamming. Fox Diff sees it, starts to move away. missiles are tracking, however. With one strike on the bow, two underneath. A third, another one on the belly. That ship likely doesn't have any damage control. Looks like the pinard and the bullseye, it looks like it's suffered damage to all of its components. So it's not going to be useful, and destroyed. So that was a really good missile there from the Petal 9th and Tempest Fox. So at this stage, Tempest Fox in orange has the upper hand, I would say. They've caught 2 points, B and E. They're making a move on a third point. I don't believe point C has been captured, just in case that a visual hasn't updated for whatever reason, but it doesn't look like point C has been captured and there are no other ships near it in order to capture it. Orange could take point A, but there's no rush at this point if they capture point D. The railgun ship here hasn't been firing, but does have the ability to fire at these small frigates that are floating past. So if they can see them and if they can lock them, then the railguns firing at this distance will definitely do a fair amount of damage, and therefore being able to take out a comparable part of the fleet and the part of maneuverability remaining with that player. The smaller corvettes, if they were still around, may have had the ability, and we still have one down here, may actually be able to sneak around to the back and capture point B. However, these light frigates in the center, which are now being moved in with the heavy cruisers and the light cruisers, may be able to counter that. However, there is significant cover around the left-hand side of the map to capture both that point B and then shoot down into point E with the speed. Tempest Fox now capturing point D, and a salvo being launched from a Fox Diff. Thunderheads out, aimed right towards the light cruisers and the heavy cruisers. They should have enough flak and auroras between all of them. Looks like 2 auroras on each, that they don't have to worry too much. It's a good thing at this size of points, is that you can have a fleet such as this with auroras and flak and really make something of it, as opposed to when you get down to the 3k you're really limited to what you can tank. So the railguns from the rail heavy cruiser now firing from above, hurricanes being launched, targeting the damaged light cruiser that's already suffered some missile strikes. Thunderheads in counter being launched back. And it looks like they're actually going for one of the beam ships. Multiple missiles impacting here. With the rest of these impacting, that should be enough to destroy that chaff pot, but not useful for hurricanes. It's hard to tell sometimes with the missiles coming in. That's another kill shot there. Heavy cruisers, light cruisers continuing to move forward. The rail heavy cruiser in return firing down. Point C was captured after all. They moved in and took that point. However, they lost a bit of a lead, unfortunately, with that. If that was captured earlier, Fox Diff would have had more points on the board, but sometimes it can be a little bit hard, and corvettes, if you do stop them too early, you can actually prevent you capturing a point. It's happened to me multiple times. Large Thunderhead salvo and hurricanes being fired from the from the frigates and the light cruiser heavy cruiser swarm. HG being fired in, the hurricanes being countered by a bit of flak. However, it looks like a few of them are going to get through and as they start to, the Thunderheads passing harmlessly underneath in the chaff, but the rest of the Hurricanes, the 120mm and all the 250 and 450s just tearing into the side of this rail heavy cruiser. At this point in the game, Tempest Fox has 3 points to 2. They have a lead. They have the majority and larger number of the ships still functioning. And they're now moving, and they can easily move into point C. Pedal Knight's now moving to go capture point A, always showing the way that it's important to have a ship that is capable of moving around and capturing points. And that ends the battle there. Fox Diff has called it. That was a resounding win by Tempest Fox. Points not so much, but the fleet composition and the way that they moved and engaged from the very beginning was the deciding factor here. So if we have a look at Fox Diff first, that's their Discord name and that's their Steam name. So the frigates, the corvettes took the corvettes were eliminated fairly early. If we have a look at the rail heavy cruiser, it didn't do as much damage as its counterpart with the guns did, and it just didn't seem to fire a lot at the beginning. Whether it did because it couldn't see anything or because it didn't have target locks, it's a bit hard to say without actually seeing the other player's point of view. These are a lot more ships than most players are normally used to dealing with. So unless they've been practicing with AIs at this size, it can be a lot to look across the whole battlefield and manage a large number of ships. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Usually fleets are about that 3 to 4 ships, as opposed to the 8 who are effectively doubling it here. Tempest Fox, really good from the outset. Light cruisers were doing, the frigates were doing a fair amount of damage, both to that corvette and then later on in support of the larger strike group. And you saw that again with the heavy cruisers. A lot of it being done by these light cruisers here. Missiles, both the Thunderheads and the Hurricanes, were really what turned that tide in some of that, where they were just able to take down the beam ships. If those beams had been able to get online, focus any of this smaller fleet or one of these or the frigate formation, then it may have been a different game.